I want to meet you. I want to meet the you inside of you. The you inside of you that will not be denied. The overlooked you, the disrespected you. The you inside of you. The overcomer you. The refuse to quit you. The in spite of you.
Welcome to Finding the 7600. I'm Xavier.
I'm Damien.
And on this episode, we will be going into deeper lengths of my aunt's telling of her side of the story.
Right. So with the last episode, the very first episode, Quisha actually shared just some background information about our story and the relationship aspect, some of the things that we went through. So we'll be covering it in different episodes, starting off with the first relationship after Xavier's mom and I went our separate ways, and this goes into our marriage. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was just at that time, like what I was going through as a single father. There was a lot on my plate, working, trying to make sure that Xavier was going to be well taken care of, and at the same time, I felt like I didn't want to rob him of a true family. And the true family experience for me was nothing more than just making sure that he had a woman to call mom or to fill that role. So I started dating, like my sister said, and I linked up with some very interesting people. And again, I'm not bad mouthing any of these individuals. I'm just saying, like, they were reflective of where I was at that point in time in life. One individual in particular I ended up marrying, and this is where it got very interesting. I was already dealing with Xavier not speaking, and anybody that knows, especially Xavier at that time in life, they would always talk about the fact that this dude just was like this little kid with this big bright smile, and you talk to him and he just be all smiling ear to ear. And I was a little concerned because he wasn't talking, and when I took him to the doctor, they were like, okay, well, we'll do some tests. They checked his hearing, and the whole thing for them was like, okay, well, we don't see anything wrong with his hearing. He didn't have any type of mental delays or anything like that. They were like, well, how's he with his siblings? I was like, well, he's pretty good with his siblings. He's like, he said, well, when he's with his siblings, does he talk or do they talk for him? And instantly it came like they always talk to him. Xavier has two older sisters, and they would always go like, Xavier wants some chips. Or they go, we want some chips. Xavier wants some too. And you look over at Xavier, he'd be like, just smiling. So that was the way of basically him communicating. He really didn't have to say much. But after the separation and their divorce came about, he became a little bit more verbal and started talking a lot more and everything. Then going into the relationship aspect of it, it was, and this was something that like I got from my oldest daughter. I'll never forget. She told me once the relationship was over, just the fact that the individual I ended up marrying, they were so much nicer in the beginning when they first met them. And one of the key reasons why that marriage came to an end was not only just the fact that like how she treated my kids, it was something that it was a comment she made that I'll never forget. And she felt like it would be better if Xavier went and lived with his mom so we could be by ourselves just to give us a chance. And I was like, nah, that's not gonna happen. Him and I were a duo in this, and I didn't see any point of bringing it to an end for any person, any woman. But yeah, so that the whole thing about the ice cream and the bruise, the whooping, I didn't know anything about it until after the fact. I got brought in on the tail end of it, and a lot of it was at that time I was working like crazy. So when I would get off work, coming home from work, Xavier was already in the bed, and it was a thing where we had him on a straight up routine of where in the morning time he got up, ate his breakfast, got cleaned up, prayed with him, got on the bus, off to school. So usually, and at that time I was DJing too. Yeah, I was DJing too, so it put me in a position where it was like I was spending a lot of time out of the house, and it was a lot of responsibility shifting on her. But I just don't think that I don't think she was prepared at all. I think that a lot of it came down to her just like trying to keep up with the Joneses, and a lot of it came out in our marriage, the way money was being spent. I know you were sharing just the whole thing about the ice cream story.
The ice cream story. See, I honestly, I don't even remember what it was about. I just know that I think it was like math. She asked me some question where I had to do some thinking because I was good at math. It was like she asked me like about tipping a barber, I believe.
Okay.
It was like if you I don't even know what she asked, but if I gave him like if it cost 10, how much should you tip? I just said a number, and she was like, no, that's wrong. And she said, think about it. So I'm thinking, still thinking, and I just got this ice cream that she bought me from McDonald's. A nice little sundae with the nuts. And right after, I guess I didn't answer fast enough. She comes with, okay, so since you don't want to answer it or know it, something like that, you can't enjoy your ice cream. Like, what? Appalled by that.
Really? You were appalled by it?
Yes, that's the ice cream that I'm looking at. I'm daydreaming about this ice cream. I'm just thinking about it. And she makes me throw away my ice cream in the dumpster. As I watched it go by, I was just like, it's kind of sad. But she always had these little moments where it would just be nice, and then like flip a switch. She would just not be mean. Well, not be like terrible, but she would be like, she'd have a different side. And it was just bad. Like you said, you weren't home a lot, so whenever it happened, it would be me and her in the house. And she just does whatever she did. Not like whatever she did, like whip me or had her little punishments or whatever they were. And you'll come up after the fact. Like you'll be home afterwards.
Yeah. I know, like, the crazy thing about it at this time was when I would come home and ask how was everything, it was never, it was always a thing of where it was like what he did was the worst. Just the fact that he didn't know about the tipping, you know, or the fact that he had trouble with his homework. It was always blown up to this thing where it's like it was the end of the world. Now, like with it all, it for me at that time, it was like so much going on behind the scenes because I should have never married this individual. Now, they made more money than me, didn't bother me. My thing was, you know, I was still going to be, you know, the man of the household, work, pay the bills and everything like that. And at that time, it was a lot of transition going on in our lives. So, you know, it wasn't a thing of where I had to get married. I thought this was somebody I could build with, somebody that we were on the same page. But as time went on, you know, true colors were revealed. And that's the thing, with it all, I'm me. And, you know, if you say I'm a jerk, I'm a jerk. If I'm an asshole, I'm an asshole. But at the end of the day, you can talk to anybody and they'll tell you, I'm me. I didn't have a reason to put on a front or try and change for anybody. And, you know, I let it be known my financial situation going into this. And again, you know, the whole thing was this was somebody that quote unquote accepted us as a family. But as things got into the thick of it, the little challenges that came up became like magnified by 1,000. That the situation that happened at the birthday party, I will never forget. There was a tension that was in the room. I didn't understand at all. And a lot of the reason why Xavier couldn't talk to me at that time, he could talk to me. But I guess like when we spent our time together, my focus was on us having a good time. Because it was like I'm working all these crazy hours, working and to the weekends we go to church, and then I'm like, hey, let's go here, let's go to the park, let's go do this, and just trying to make sure that we spend quality time together. Then it's like you try and slide in that family time together, but it was just the individual I was with at that time wasn't mature enough to handle that situation. It is what it is. But like going back to that party thing, when that all came out, honestly, when it was brought to my attention, the funny thing is, in our minds, we'll think one thing, and a lot of times, outwardly, we'll be like, oh no, I just want to leave that situation. I actually want to get a belt whooped by ass the same way she whooped him, because to me that wasn't acceptable. It wasn't about the discipline aspect of it. It was just the fact that here it is, you hit him with a belt buckle, and then it was hidden because it was never brought to my attention. I didn't find out his birthday party was Sunday. I found out about it that Sunday night. And my mom came out, and I'll never forget the response when she told me about what happened in front of her. She was like, I just want to talk to both of you all. And my mom was like, I just don't think it's okay for you to hit Xavier where you hit him. And I'm like, hit Xavier when? And when it all came out, she broke down crying and was like, oh no, it wasn't like that. I never would hurt him. And it was just, I just didn't like the way it was, the way things went down. And once it all came out, then it was like, okay, why are we hiding this? There was no need. And you even remember what you got a whooping for?
No, I never do. But I know that it was like a routine with the whoopings. Like whenever I did get a whooping, it wouldn't be my room or your room. It would be the guest room, and I'll lay across the bed.
Why not?
Just think like kids know. Kids always know. Kids have a little intuition. They do.
I know my takeaway from that situation was nothing more than just take your time, man. Like for real, and don't rush to introduce nobody to your kids. Like for real, because a lot of times, and what this is when dealing with my circumstances as a man, women will see that you love and care for your kids, and the whole thing is those that are deceivers, they'll play on that as a way in, because when we were dating, oh man, Xavier couldn't do no wrong at all. And whenever we would go somewhere, he was always included. And oh well, if this is the thing, when we were dating and there was some food or something like that, and if it was eaten in the car, it was like if he dropped something, oh, it was no problem. But after we got married,
you can't eat in that Nissan. I'm serious.
Yeah, and then it's like a ugly side came out. And then as I listened to more and more stories about this individual's upbringing, I found out like why they were the way they were, and it was one of those things where they were trying to mimic and replicate their upbringing because it was quote unquote the perfect ideal situation for them. And it's like, no, when you do that, you're limiting the growth of your own family. And for me, that wasn't something I wanted to do to my kids. I didn't want to, and that was the thing. Once I came out of that relationship, I cut back on working so much because prior to that, I wasn't working like that. Xavier actually would go to work with me. I was at IUN and all. And around this time frame, this was when Xavier was 6. Oh goodness, between 6 and 10. It was one of those situations of where, somebody asked me, they were like, hey, what happens if the individual, you were married to sees this video and, they got something to say? I mean, to be honest with you, if there's a lie that's being told, there's no need for it here. Again, this isn't even my recount. This is just him talking and telling, from his point of view. And my sister just shared, that. But it is what it is.
See, how I look at it, remember, well, this is my surviving story. I survived that house. It was terrible.
You survived it.
I had to. There were times, I'm serious. See, as a young kid, I didn't get many whoopings when I was very little. And, that 6 to 10 range? Yeah. I didn't get many whoopings. So when I did, And like the bad ones that I did get, it were like they were the worst because like I got hit in some bad spots, and I'm serious. And afterwards, thinking like I actually thought I wanted to kill myself. Like there were many times I tried to hold my breath. I choked myself a couple times. Yeah, I'm so serious. Like I was like, I'm not gonna breathe no more. I don't want to do this because I didn't like how she treated me at all. I didn't like being alone with her, and I was always alone with her. And like whenever she would be in the kitchen, I just like make a quick appearance, not appearance, but I just wanted to get whatever I wanted to get, and just go back to my room or whatever. But it was never the case because it would always be I'd stop in the kitchen, try to get water or a little snack. Hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do that? Or hey, do this. Like wash the dishes when there's nothing in the sink like that, and or vacuum or something. I don't care for chores. I mean, I'll do chores, but being forced to do chores, no one loves it. And doing chores that when there's no necessary reason to do them, it didn't make sense to me, especially at that time, because I was like, but I'm gonna just go with it and be like, okay, because I don't want the trouble. But somehow, the trouble still came, and it would be hours before I even saw my dad to tell him if I wanted to tell him or not. I don't think I ever even told you anything.
No.
Yeah, I didn't tell him anything. I don't know what it is. It's like a scared factor.
It was like, so I remember like around that time, like literally when I would get off work, I usually get home about 10 o'clock because my work schedule was crazy. It was the drive. I was working in Chicago, and when I would come home, I would always go to his room and check on him. And it was so funny because sometimes he would be up, but he would whisper to me, like, hey man, how you doing? Like, I'm fine. So you have a good day? Yeah. All right, good night. I'll see you in the morning. Love you. And then, you know, I go to whatever I was doing at that time between getting music ready or whatever the case may be. But it was, it's one of those things where it's very disheartening to hear about this now, all these years later. And for me, it's like part of it was just because when I remember when my mom married this dude that was just like a straight up dick. And the funny thing is, I never wanted to die from that situation. My thing was I wanted to hurt him, and but that was because I was raised totally different.
See how I was raised. Don't put your hands on a girl or woman. So in my mind, I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't do nothing to her. There's nothing I can do. I'm a kid.
Yeah.
I can take myself out the situation, but that's it. So that's where my mind was at, and that was like not the easiest. Well, yeah, easiest way out for me, I guess. But I never did anything, so.
I'm glad you did. One of the things that I will say that was something that was a constant when it came down to the relationships with the women I chose, there was always this, I won't say always, it was a recurring theme of them trying to drive a wedge between Xavier and I. And when I say that, just talking about the fact that here it is, you got this man with this kid, and when they come into our world, you know, the whole thing was, I'm going to interject myself in this, but the whole thing is, I got to get him out of the way so I can get all of his attention. And that was one of those things that, like, as time went on, you know, there was many relationships that got thrown to the wayside just because of it. The funny thing is, it's like, I remember as a kid myself, but a lot of it came down in different circumstances. My thing was, I wanted to take the easy way out because of not feeling like I mattered. Like, not feeling like I was even, you know, like I was supposed to be here. And not to take the attention off of, you know, what you brought up, but it's almost like the commonality for the path of least resistance was my thinking, you know, like, hey, well, nobody cares, and you know, if I die, you know, what then what? Nothing happens.
See, I didn't think nobody cares. I just like, I hate this woman. I don't want to be around her, and I'm always around her. So, what's the best thing to do? And it was always like right after I got hit or something. So I'll go to the bathroom after, go get some tissue. You know, after a whooping, go get some tissue, wipe yourself, like get clean. So I'm in the bathroom. You close the door, close the door, start squeaking and stuff. It's just, I hate you, like, let's say they're quiet. But I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't, like, so I was serious, like, with those videos that they show you as a kid. Like, that was some of me, like, I remember it. But, other times, when I go to my room, cry yourself to sleep, like, sometimes I would hold my breath, like in the pillow, just see how long I could do it. I never did it too long, but I was just like, let me see how it would go. But then after a while, I'm like, no, I want to breathe. I want to breathe. So,
It's a question for you.
what's up?
Why didn't you ever tell me?
Afterwards or like during?
During when all that was going on.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know. It just never came across like, I don't know.
Why didn't you ever tell your Aunt Quisha?
I don't know. Like, sometimes, I don't know. I would think about it, but, like, I guess I was thinking I don't want to get them in trouble.
I understand that.
But it never just stayed on my mind, hey, I want to tell. It's just, that's it.
Well, one of the things that came about from Auntie Quisha's video were some questions. And this comes from Regina Kendrick.
After seeing the relationships, situationships, that Damien has been in, how do you think this affects you as far as future relationships? Honestly, his past relationships, as far as that marriage or, yeah, none of his relationships I felt like I really cared for to say that they affected me. The only relationship that I thought about that really I cared about was, it wasn't even with him and women. It was him and my sisters, or sister, my older sister, because like whenever she came around, it wasn't like a favorite thing, but I would be left out. I felt left out. Like I was younger, I guess, but they were always joking, laughing, and then whenever I tried to talk, no one heard me, no one said anything, so I would just sit there like, okay, that's crazy. But just, it continued. It wasn't on purpose either. It was just, they didn't see each other that much, but it was just, I felt left out. I guess that took more of an effect to me nowadays, in a sense of being left out. But
How so?
Being left out?
Yeah.
Because I mean, sometimes you see people having a good time. I don't. Sometimes, and other times, I don't push myself to just be in that, like, the good time or whatever it is. But like, I would just laugh, but that's it, and mind my business. But other times, I'll like try to put myself in their situation, like put myself to cross paths with them sooner or later, to like hang out or whatever, like just to see what they're about, you know, curiosity. It also asks, do you feel that watching his whatever ships prepared you for the best or worst? they prepared me for the worst so I could try and see the best in people, but call their BS out, because since I have seen people's other sides, I just know that there's two sides to a person. Their front side that they want to show off to everyone, and then behind closed doors or whatever you do with them on the other side. Nobody is ever one-sided. So.
And are you apprehensive with the idea of being in a relationship because of the traumatic experiences that you personally endured?
Nah, relationships are fun. Can't lie. I like relationships. They are fun. I haven't really tried to be in a real relationship earlier on in my years, because like I don't see the point in it earlier on, but nowadays I'm like, sure, you get lonely sometimes. Someone's there to be with you, not every step of the way, but they're there with you through thick and thin, whenever you need them, whenever you want to talk to someone, like that's pretty nice. And yeah, I would like to have a relationship, marriage, all that. Not too late, but pretty soon. And that's all for me. Not pretty soon, as in like in a couple years.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
5, like 25, at the least 25. I want to be in a marriage.
Okay.
But if it's successful, like I'm feeling it, but I'm not trying to rush into things. That's my thing.
Regina asked the question, how do you feel that these situations have changed you? Well, I will say this, I'm a lot more trusting. I honestly, I'm apprehensive about going to a relationship. Yeah, a lot of it is a lack of trust for self. Going into anything with anyone and looking at what it's built on is one of the reasons why I'm like really taking my time before I look at another person. A lot of people have come to me and be like, oh man, you got to get back out there, and it's the whole thing. Throughout my life, I've never been afraid to try or do anything. As time goes on, it's just one of those things where it's like just a little bit more cautious with the jumps now. I was rushed into it before because I had this sense of urgency, like, hey, and this is something that was needed, and you know, especially for my kids to be able to see a real working relationship. And the biggest mistake of mine was looking at the examples of relationships that I saw that I tried to base my relationships off of. Seeing your grandparents in a relationship isn't real because you don't see them during the struggle years.
Yeah, you just see the end.
Yeah, you just see the end result.
The middle, whatever it is.
My aunts, they had horrible relationships play out in front of us. Same thing with my mom, not having any access to or knowing my dad's side of the family, you know. So again, I didn't grow up seeing any working relationships. People will talk about like those outside relationships of friends of the family and everything like that. I grew up like literally seeing folks fucking around on their wives, you know, saying one thing in front of folks and then behind the scenes something else is going on. So I can't say that, you know, even as far as examples of men when it came down to it, there's not many solid dudes I knew growing up. A lot of those guys were one way, you know, in front of the family, and then like, you know, when we get around our cousins and all and see the real, you see these dudes, they, you know, you see their real colors. So I cannot say that I saw, you know, my idea of the relationship or of a relationship at that point in time was that ignorant, you know, a guy's got a wife and he's got somebody on the side. And that's where you find your happiness. And that was how things are supposed to go. And people will sit back and they'll say, well, what about church? Same thing there. You know. And it's funny now when all these years later, I look at all the skeletons that are falling out of the closet, and I see the expectations that were put on people to live a certain way, and find out that nobody was living the way that they were preaching. You know, very few. And then you have those that the only reason why they were living that way was because they couldn't physically go out and do those things anymore. You know, I'm stuck in the house because I can't drive no more. My diabetes is flared up, or my wife's got to take care of me at 100%, so I can't cheat on her. So now you want to make it seem like, you know, it's the stand-up guy. Praise the Lord. But yeah, so for me, it's one of those things where it's like I'm take my time. I'm in no rush. I want to see the world before I die. So I'd rather do that than go into another relationship just to, you know, prematurely. So, but thank you for your question. And if anybody else is watching, they have questions, we're going to go more and more into it. So please just leave a comment at the bottom. Leave your question in the comment section. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share.
I ain't done yet. And plus, my aunt, that's my road dog. She's like my favorite, even though she's not my only one. She's the only one that I stayed with consistently throughout the years. She is like a mother figure in my life. Her relationship with her husband, now they are not someone that I was like try to think of when I get married, but it's like they're pretty good role models. Yeah, but that's it. I love them.
Okay, so the meaning of the name Finding Us 7600. Finding Us is just finding our relationship back together. 7600 represents my birth year and Xavier's birth year. And in numerology, the number 7600 has a substantial meaning. And I looked it up, and this is what it says. Get ready for serious family problems. The source will be a representative of the younger generation, and you will have to show all your tact, delicacy, and wisdom to eliminate the problem without losing their love and respect. If you're able to understand the details of the situation, your advice will have a positive impact on their whole future life. Welcome to Finding Us 7600. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. We'll go more and more into the stories because we got a lot of ground to cover. And then we talk about how we actually came back together and brought this thing back solid. So thank you for tuning in.
That's a preview. That's how it went.
Stupid. Thank you for watching Finding Us 76.
I want to meet you. I want to meet the you inside of you. The you inside of you that will not be denied. The overlooked you, the disrespected you. The you inside of you. The overcomer you. The refuse to quit you. The in spite of you. The against all odds.